Dog refuses to let babies sleep alone. When parents find out why, they call the police. Jesse and David's home situation was very normal until Jesse gave birth to a beautiful daughter. Ever since that moment, their family dog, Benji, shook things up completely. Benji would not let their daughter sleep alone, and when they were separated, she would not stop barking. When David realized what was going on, he got the shock of his life. He immediately called the police, and they came with every available officer. When the first police officer arrived, he could not believe what he was witnessing. How could a dog have noticed this? He told David, adding that he should be very happy with such an observant dog. Deep down, David knew that he had screwed up. He should have been the one protecting his daughter. Within minutes, at least a dozen more police cars arrived at the scene. They immediately started asking questions to both David and Jesse. The couple was in shock. They had no idea of the gravity of the situation until now. What the officers came for was disturbing for sure, but the fact that it had already started when Jessie was pregnant was even more alarming. They had trusted the wrong people. But why did Benji refuse to let their daughter sleep alone? And what did David eventually figure out that necessitated such a large police presence? It all started when Jessie was finally pregnant. They had both wanted this for a very long time. However, there was something that was bugging both of them, their dog, Benji. They were hesitant about her reaction to the baby. Jessie had read some horror stories about dogs that would not accept another family member. Jessie and David both hoped that Benji would accept this. Otherwise, they were definitely going to bring Benji to a shelter. Then one day, when Benji finally noticed that Jessie was pregnant, she started barking at Jessie's belly repeatedly. Benji did not seem happy with the pregnancy and started to act really weird. They could not figure out what was triggering this behavior. Did Benji feel threatened, or was there something wrong with the baby that Benji could sense? Jessie needed to get answers quickly before it was too late. Jessie asked David to take Benji to the veterinarian. They had to make sure that nothing was wrong with Benji before they would need to choose between the baby or the dog. That choice would not be easy, but deep down, they knew that if they had to choose, they would definitely bring Benji to a shelter if she could not accept the baby. This was to keep their daughter safe at all times. However, the vet could not bring clarity. He did some medical checks to see if the dog was okay, but there was nothing wrong. He told David that Benji must be sensing something going on with the baby. He advised David to take Jessie to the hospital for some checkups. When David brought the news to Jessie, she started crying. She felt like everything was wrong. Jessie mustered up all of her courage to call her doctor, who told her to come in immediately. Jessie called her friend Anne, who was there for her almost every day to help her. Anne had been helping during the pregnancy around the house and showed up within minutes to take her friend to the hospital. Upon arriving, the receptionist told her she could go in. The doctor performed some elaborate medical tests to make sure everything was all right. The ultrasound, as well as other tests, did not indicate anything wrong with Jessie or the baby. They still did not get the answers they were looking for. When they arrived home, Jessie broke down crying. She did not want to choose between her child and the dog. Anne comforted her and told Jessie that she would be there for them when they couldn't be home and would become their babysitter. She had plenty of time, and this comforted Jessie, knowing there would always be someone there to keep an eye on Benji. A couple of weeks later, Jessie finally gave birth to a beautiful girl, Lily. Benji had still been acting strange, but this is when more erratic behavior started happening. The first few weeks seemed to go fine as both Jessie and David were home to care for their little girl. Benji seemed to have calmed down, but when they started working, Anne called them with some concerning news. She told Jessie that Benji refused to let Lily sleep alone and would not leave her side. Jessie was totally baffled. When she told David, he did not think much of it. He believed Benji was just caring for Lily and thought it was beautiful. Then one day, Anne called in distress. She had separated Benji from Lily, and after returning downstairs, she was attacked by Benji. Benji was definitely overprotective. David knew that Benji had to be punished for this behavior. With a heavy heart, he went back to the veterinarian, who gave David a choice. He could bring Benji to a shelter, or he could figure out why Benji was acting this way, as the vet had a feeling something was off. David took offense to a comment the vet made, suggesting that they were probably the problem, and that Benji did not trust them to let Lily sleep alone. However, David knew deep down that there was something else. He couldn't be the problem, could he? For a while, they decided to observe Benji together with Lily. Lily seemed to love the dog, and Benji definitely loved Lily. They could not say goodbye to Benji just because she was overprotective. The problem was that whenever David would bring Lily to bed, or when Lily fell asleep, Benji would be at her side. David just accepted the situation until one day, Anne called to say that she had been bitten by Benji. This gave David a sudden realization. He noticed that Benji only reacted strangely when Anne was around. Benji was calm when Anne wasn't around, so Anne must be the problem. David knew it. Jessie told David that he must calm down and refuse to let him do anything rash. She reminded David that Benji refused to let Lily sleep alone at night as well, so Anne couldn't be the problem, could she? Jessie came up with a genius idea. She told David to install cameras around the house to keep an eye on Benji and Lily. This would definitely get them more answers. They could even keep an eye on Anne during the day. Anne seemed hesitant about David installing cameras in the house. She asked if it was necessary and wondered what caused this. David thought this was very suspicious. He already didn't trust her, and now she was asking all these questions. When David reviewed the first few days of footage, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Benji was still very protective and constantly kept an eye on Anne. It started to look like Benji did not trust her. David wanted to confront Anne. He decided to do this without Jessie knowing, as they were best friends after all. David got himself really mad and yelled at Anne, "What are you doing to my daughter?" Anne was totally caught off guard and assured David she had no bad intentions. She fired back at David, furious, wondering how she could have done anything. She pointed out that the dog had behaved like this ever since Jessie was pregnant, and that she was not even around during the night. Then Jessie came home. She was furious at David for confronting Anne like this. She could not believe that he was accusing her best friend of being a threat to Lily. Jessie gave David an ultimatum. Either figure it out quickly or get rid of Benji. David realized at that moment that Anne had said something that would give him all the answers he needed. Benji reacted the same way at night. He had never reviewed the night footage, but now he definitely would. David started up the software and gasped when he realized that every single night, the recordings were wiped off the hard drive. There was definitely something really strange going on here. But what? He decided to make a separate encrypted backup every day for the night recordings. David knew for sure that he would get to the bottom of this. Benji had probably noticed something that neither he nor Jessie could sense. The next day, David was eager to watch the footage. His suspicions were soon confirmed when he loaded up the recordings. The footage of the baby's room was disturbing. He saw something entering through the window. David was in complete shock, his heart pounding in his chest. When he reviewed more of the footage, he was even more shocked. He had to call the police before this got out of control. Quickly, David explained what he had seen. They told him they would immediately send all available officers to his home. David knew he had just discovered something huge, but what warranted such a large police presence? David called Jesse to come home. Within minutes, he heard sirens outside his house. The first officers that arrived were followed by Jesse, who demanded an explanation. When David showed her the footage, she fell to her knees. An officer told Jesse and David that they had to be proud of their dog for sensing this. They reviewed the footage and immediately asked David more questions about their home situation. He explained Benji's behavior and reaction to Anne. This triggered the officer. "Where is she?" he asked. They wanted to ask her questions. David gave them her number, but she could not be reached. Where was Anne? They asked for more information, and Jesse told them everything they wanted to know. Meanwhile, Benji was upstairs with Lily. When officers entered the room, she immediately ran over to the wall and started barking at it. It looked like Benji wanted to tell the officer something. There was something hidden in the wall. They used a sledgehammer to destroy the wall without even asking David or Jesse. There was a hidden compartment behind the wall. What was going on here? Without hesitation, they pulled everything out of there, including a safe. They had to get a safe cracker. In the meantime, other officers were running a background check on Anne Anderson. What they came up with shocked Jesse and David. There was no Anne. She was not findable in any database, nor was she ever registered anywhere. This person had fabricated her whole life. Jessie broke down. She had known her best friend for over 10 years. How could this be happening? What was in the safe? Eventually, a safe cracker arrived, and Benji, in the meantime, kept barking at the safe while also keeping a close eye on Lily. She smelled something. When the safe cracker was finally done, they realized the gravity of the situation. A whole bunch of money, jewelry, documents, and passports were found inside the safe. When one of the passports was opened, the officer recognized the person. Jessie screamed, "That's Anne!" They had found a hidden stash belonging to Anne. The police captain came to Jesse and David and told them that they were dealing with an international spy named Elizabeth Holmes. She was wanted in 17 countries for espionage. Jesse was shocked. The reason she infiltrated their lives was that David worked as the director of a national security company. He had access to the entire national security grid. Elizabeth had probably been hired by a rival company to leak secrets. At night, she wiped the footage and tried cracking David's computer. Benji was the only one who noticed something about Elizabeth. This is why Benji tried her very best to protect Lily from any danger that she could sense. Benji had cracked this case wide open. Officers told David that he should be very proud of their dog. Eventually, they managed to catch Elizabeth trying to leave the country. She had noticed the police presence at the house and was trying to escape, but she got caught and confessed everything. Benji saved the day. Benji and Lily grew up as best friends. Lily eventually learned the entire story from her parents. She and Benji were inseparable ever since, and Benji never stopped looking out for Lily. David and Jesse tried to be more careful about who they let into their house. If they made a mistake again, at least they had Benji to watch out for them.